Hello, welcome back to, I don't even know what we call this, Lessons with Maina, Life Lessons with Maina. Mr. Maina, say hi.
Hello everyone.
Yeah, so we've been learning a lot. Real estate, what is a money market fund? How do you plan to invest? So today, a lot of you have been asking about how do I invest abroad? How do I buy stocks abroad? How do I get stocks on Netflix and Amazon? Maybe Mr. Maina can give us guidelines today. Mr. Maina, do a lot of Kenyans invest abroad?
I think a lot of Kenyans do. I don't think there's any place I can point you to which will necessarily give statistics around 40% of Kenyans do invest. I do know that Kenyans are highly attuned to what's going on outside of our country in many ways, and that translates into investment as well. There's also a lot of exposure that Kenyans have through either family who have lived outside of the country, which also just serves to build that interest in potentially investing outside the country. So I think there's appetite for that investment outside of the country. What probably there's a gap in is the how it can be done bit of things.
Please teach us.
Right now what is trending in terms of investments is something called exchange traded funds. Small thing is ETFs. And if you go on to investopedia.com and just type in ETF, you'll get a whole bunch of links that give you some context around that. But what ETFs do is they take investments in different sectors. So like in technology, for example, there are ETFs that have upwards of 100 technology-oriented companies all pulled together in this investment fund. And the beauty is then it gives Maina as a potential investor access to all these different companies, right? Which is much easier than Maina going and buying each individual stock. Right? So in one fell swoop, you're able to get that diversification across a sector. There are ETFs that focus on pharmaceutical as a sector, for example, right? So over time, an investor can decide, look, Maina, my interest is financial sector, technology, and maybe one other sector. Through three exchange traded funds or ETF investments, I actually get that access, right? They're also usually quite cheap in terms of the cost. Some of the largest ones like Vanguard, which is an ETF based in the US, are actually getting to a point where in some cases, your cost of investment is zero essentially, or close to zero. And that's really given them a lot of traction in 2020, and I'd expect the same to continue. So I think that's probably the easiest way of doing it. The other way of getting access is to open, essentially a brokerage account with an international broker. So that's going to involve a little bit of, some paperwork, obviously, just, setting up. But again, the global trend has been for those brokers to move to, almost zero brokerage commission kind of affairs. When Maina opens that brokerage account, Maina can fund that account, and Maina can then go ahead and now buy maybe the individual stocks.
Where do I go to open a brokerage account?
So there are quite a number of vendors. Again, the age we live in is beautiful in the sense that if one goes and just Googles, for example, international brokers, a whole list will come up. But for example, interactive brokers are people who are very, I think, well versed in that particular area. And then that gives maybe the individual a bit more control in terms of the specific stocks one might be interested in buying. So I think those are the two big avenues to potentially look at in terms of international investing.
So if I want to invest maybe New York Stock Exchange or something, the same method?
The same method.
The international brokers?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because a lot of those assets are listed on the New York Stock Exchange in any case. The ETFs as well. So you will be in a position to invest. The key thing to keep in mind though is that clearly your investment minimums might be much higher. Right? I think last I checked, certain stocks were north of $300 a share, for example. So there's that element of the quantum required is generally higher. The other thing, obviously, to keep in mind is, from our perspective, there's the exchange element.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be acquiring dollars so that I can invest, you may need to also keep an eye on how the Forex market is going so that you buy your dollars when, they are lower to the shilling. So
it's a whole beautiful science.
Yeah. Just you can build up that so that you can allow yourself to invest.
Okay.
But I do think it's something that's worth considering from a diversification perspective as well. Yeah. It doesn't hurt, and it's certainly much easier to do than maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Where, if you didn't live out in that country, you wanted to invest in, probably no chance of ever being able to do so.
I love that advice. And now that we're on the matter, give me your thoughts and opinions on Forex trading versus Forex trading.
Okay. Yeah. So Forex trading has picked up in terms of interest in the local market.
Yeah.
Lots of I have seen a lot of adverts and brochures of various players who come in. I think my own personal view is Forex trading has a kind of attractive element about it because of the typical advert you'll see of Forex trading in on YouTube, for example, sort of has this element of get in, get out. It's kind of like you can make money quickly. There's a fail-safe approach. It almost gives you the sense that there is no risk embedded in it, which unfortunately is not the case.
Yeah.
Right? Forex markets tend to move for reasons that are outside you, Ivy, or my control. Right?
Yep.
Just off the top of my head, say we go to sleep tonight and God forbid, knock on wood, but there is a fight for oil in somewhere in the Middle East, and we import oil. That has implications on where the currency will go. We can move from the Kenya shilling being 110 to the dollar today. All of a sudden we're at 120, right? That's something that neither you or I can control. So there's some embedded risk as far as it's concerned.
Okay.
So my advice is, again, self-awareness. Do you have the capacity to be able to take that risk? If so, to what extent? And then if you do venture in, again, do your due diligence and make the choice that works for you. I don't recommend it being done for people with low risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So, if you're approaching retirement, one probably wants a conservative investment, not necessarily Forex trading, but it has come up as an alternative option. And I know, for some people, the risk lovers, that's where they like to play.
Yeah. I know someone was advising if you're venturing into Forex trading, you just have to make sure that the broker you use or whoever you use is regulated.
Yes, it's important.
Yeah.
And there's been commendable efforts to make sure that there's some corporate governance attached to whoever is doing the Forex trading on your behalf. I think it makes a lot of sense. Whenever there's a for lack of a better word, sexiness attached to an asset class, there's also going to be like a group of people who are like, how can we capitalize on this, right? The so-called fly-by-night briefcase Forex shops, where you give your hard-earned savings, then 2 weeks later you go to where they are located and it's a vacant building, right? So a regulated Forex player just gives you more comfort, I think, that hey, they are monitored against certain criteria and they will endeavor to act in your best interest.
Would you give the same advice on cryptocurrency? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so crypto again, has become a topical thing. I think in the last couple of weeks on the Business Daily have seen, lots of headlines. Crypto had a fantastic 2017, kind of declined in terms of the returns 2018, 2019. And then towards the tail end of 2020, interest has picked up, maybe related to COVID, who knows? But we have a situation where, we hit $20,000 a Bitcoin. We quickly moved up, up the ranks, and 30,000 was hit, quite quickly thereafter. So, if you look at a Bitcoin graph, it's the kind of graphs you like, right? Just going straight up like this. But again, we always forget the day-to-day movements, which can be extremely volatile. There are times when it's gone up $2,000 plus, times it's come down by 5, right? So again, the big question is, does my heart rate allow me to take those sort of risks in terms of, you know, my appreciation of risk? Obviously, I mean, $20,000 a coin is quite a bit of money to put to work.
It's 2 million, Bob.
Yeah. So
for a Bitcoin, one.
Yeah. So my ability to do that is something which somebody has to reconcile with themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's become a topical thing just because of that level of performance that is, you know, it's hard to match with any other asset class. I think crypto is quite volatile.
Yeah.
The use cases for crypto are still being made. You know, there've been chats before of it replacing, you know,
cash,
money as we know it. But I think in a Kenyan context, we are probably a little bit, you know, we have some way to go before that is actualized, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a scenario where we can walk into a Java and be like, you know, I'm paying
with Bitcoin thing.
So I think we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact that central banks, like I know the US central bank, some of the central banks in Europe are actually seriously considering digital currency. China certainly is also doing that. Has kind of given some credibility to crypto. But again, I must emphasize, to me, highly volatile. It does require some research around the papers. And again, remember we mentioned how when something is hot, there's a group of people who come and also issue a, you know, they were calling them ICOs, which is like an IPO, you know, initial public offering for a coin, promising you that this is going to, you know, have the same sort of growth. Some of those turned out to be fraudulent. So it's important to just, you know, be careful about, you know, aligning what you're investing into your risk profile. So like myself, who I'm still trying to learn a bit more about the crypto currency game, I'm definitely on the conservative side as far as that's concerned. So it would be hard to convince me to invest in it. But again, I am hardly the, you know, the average person in terms of my view. There are people who I know have benefited from crypto before.
Some of our movers.
Exactly.
Millionaires because of crypto. I'm like, oh, okay.
And that's great. You know. So, but they have also taken the time to appreciate that. They're willing to take the risk, and that's what it's about. As long as you're aligned to your risk profile. No, fantastic.
Oh wow, good stuff. I think that's about it in terms of investing abroad. Thoughts on Forex and thoughts on cryptocurrency. I feel like this was one of my favorite session, just because now I've left knowing, okay, I'll go to Investopedia. This is what I need to do. Need to talk to interactive brokers. I hope this session was helpful to you, Mr. Maina. Thank you so much for your time. So the next one, Mr. Maina closes and gives us his personal 3 best lessons on savings and investments.